You know, all good things must come to an end, and unfortunately, this beacon is going to be returning home to the good folks over at Vanleigh. I have to give them a huge shout out and thank you for lending this to me for 6 months to do a long-term review. We've taken it out, golly, I think 7 times. And then we recently took it out just for a local trip. We went to a local RV park that's only about, probably 35, 40 miles away from here, just to kind of wrap everything up and spend one more night in it. We've had a lot of fun in this. I'm gonna take a minute to try to go over some of the things we've really enjoyed about this fifth wheel, and also some of the things and areas that they might be able to improve a little bit. So hang tight, I'll be right back. You know, there's a lot to be said about this unit, and I'm going to try to give you guys an overall perspective of what it's been like to have this for a while. Now, we're not full-time RVers, so I don't want anybody to be under the illusion or the misconception that we take this out and we live in this full-time. We go out when we can go out and spend as many great hours in it as we can whenever we have that opportunity. What does that mean? That generally means maybe once or twice a month, we'll go out for maybe 3 or 4 days at a time. Sometimes a little bit less. It really depends on our schedule. So whenever we have an opportunity to go out, we really enjoy it. This is probably our favorite pastime hobby, the thing we love to do, and that's to go RVing. Now, this specific RV that we're in, this Vanleigh Beacon 42 RDB, is designed and rated for full-time living. So a lot of folks will take a look at this and they'll see this beautiful woodwork. They'll see the cabinetry, the island, all of the upgraded appliances, residential fridge. They'll look at this and they'll basically say, if you don't live in one of these, why would you want one? Now, that can really be answered in a couple different ways. First of all, if you have the budget to afford one of these and you're a weekend warrior and you just want to bring the most luxurious living accommodations that you can with you, well, this may be a good option. There are several good options. This is among them. If you are someone who, you know, doesn't have that type of budget or just doesn't want to invest that much in the RV lifestyle, well, then this might be a stretch. This might be something that you say, there's absolutely no way I need something that big or this fancy for camping, especially if it's just me and my family going out on, you know, every other weekend or once a month, or in some cases once every 6 months. So if that's you and this is beyond what you feel you would want for your family's camping situation, I completely get it. I understand that. This specific unit was featured on my channel for a 6-month review because I walked through one of these at a dealer show up in Elkhart, Indiana, and it really was a popular video. A lot of people liked it. I only had an opportunity to spend about an hour inside of it and only about 30 minutes filming it. So whenever I showed that video, the folks at Vanleigh got a lot of eyes on their product. A lot of people really liked it. I think that video is over 1 million views. And those people who saw that video wanted to know more about it. So I had tons of emails. I'm talking probably nearly 200 emails from folks asking me what my opinion on the Vanleigh product was. Not just the Beacon, but also the Pinecrest and the Volano. And the folks over at Vanleigh were also getting a lot of emails and a lot of requests for more information. So they felt that a really great way to get their product in front of people in terms of showing them what it's all about was to contact me and ask me if I wanted to do a long-term evaluation. And this is definitely one of those things where I have to be careful as a creator, but also as someone who tries to be honest and ethical in all my videos. People will automatically say, well, they let you borrow a unit like this for 6 months. Obviously, they're wanting some type of payback out of this, right? They want me to give this thing a phenomenal 5-star review in every sense. And if you watch my videos on this, you'll realize I did probably the opposite of that. I had more than half of the videos I produced on this critiquing certain things that I think should have been done better. For instance, you know, one of the big ones that I pointed out right off the bat was the fact that the televator up front had wiring going around the wrong side, and it sliced all the wires the first time the televator was used. I don't know if it was by us or by somebody testing it. I don't know, but it damaged all the wires, and I had to pull the fireplace out, get underneath there, replace all the wires. You know, I called them. They were very responsive. They were probably as responsive as you would want them to be. Now, this is an interesting topic because automatically people are going to say, well, they were responsive to you because you're reviewing one of their products and they don't want a bad rap. And I'm sure part of it is based on that. I'm sure there's a little bit there. However, if you talk to most people who have had one of these units, or most owners of a Vanleigh product or a Tiffin product, they'll tell you that one of the big claim to fames that they have is the fact that they really provide great customer service. So my assumption is they may have been a little bit more responsive to me, but I don't think it was, you know, outside of the realm of close to what a typical Vanleigh buyer would experience. And if you're a Vanleigh owner, let me know. Leave a comment below if you've had one of these products, or if you have one of these products and you've had a different experience. Leave it in the comment field below. But what I can tell you is the number that I was given to call if I have a problem is their normal customer service number. And when I called that number, I would simply say, you know what, I have a Vanleigh Beacon 42 RDB, it's a 2020 model or 2021 model, and I have this problem. They'd walk me through it. Sometimes they'd have to get someone to call me back, but they were always very responsive. They asked me how I wanted to get this repaired. Either take it to a shop and they'd reimburse me, or they'd send me to a certified shop, or if they wanted a technician to come out, and I told them just send me the cables, I'll do it myself, because it was a really great video to at least showcase to you how to do some work like that if you ever have a problem in your own unit. And beyond that, you know, I had a problem over here, right? These little cable stops at the top weren't adjusted properly, and these doors would hit the fridge right here. Now, it's pretty cool the fact that they even offer these, because most manufacturers don't have those cable stops, but they weren't set properly. And, you know, I called them up, I said, what's the easiest way to fix this? And they gave me a really common sense, easy way to fix it, and that was simply to move the screw from here to here, which I did, and now none of the cabinets make contact with the fridge. I was critical about the fact that I don't like the wooden panels on the doors. Very fancy looking, very residential looking, but the problem is the whole reason these don't open all the way is because you have this huge piece right here, because the front of these LG refrigerators are curved and these panels make it flat, so it sticks out a lot over here, about 3 inches, and that doesn't allow these cabinets to open completely. Complained about that. Another big issue was one that we had here in the shower. There was a crack in this one-piece shower, which scared the heck out of me, because I'm thinking, how do you get that fixed without replacing it? They had a crew come out. It took them about 2 weeks. They sent some people down. They fixed it in about an hour, and it looks good as new. So I'm not claiming that this thing's perfect, or there haven't been our fair share of little issues, right? We had a slide issue. I pointed that out as soon as it happened. One of these slides wouldn't actually go back in straight. It was really, really crooked. And I got on the phone with one of their technicians. They walked me through a couple reset programs, and they taught me something that I didn't even know about the Schwintek slide. And that is, once you extend it or retract it, you continue to hold the button for about 5 to 10 seconds, and it programs it to learn where it needs to stop or where it needs to come in and stop, and you don't have that problem. It's when you stop it or you don't do that, and it's programmed to think it needs to go in or come out a certain ways, and it's not the right amount of distance, if all that makes sense, and it essentially makes itself crooked, or it doesn't close properly. So I thought that that was a big problem. They cleared it up for me. They walked me through it. You know, this unit has 3 air conditioning systems, all whisper quiet and all ducted, and it really is cool because the return air are all larger ducts on one side, and then your blowing vents are on the other side, which are smaller ducts, and it forces a lot of air out. We've had an opportunity to camp in this when it's probably upwards of 103, 104 degrees with about a 115 degree heat index. If it did not have the 3 air conditioning systems, and if they weren't set up the way they are, it probably would have been pretty miserable, because this unit does not have 3-inch thick sidewalls. They're 2-inch thick sidewalls. If you look at some of your ultra high-end fifth wheels, they have 3-inch thick sidewalls. So a lot of people will say, well, are the sidewalls affecting its ability to maintain temperature inside, right? Does it block the right amount of heat from coming in, or block the right amount of cold from coming in, depending on what climate you're in? And the fact is that when it was super hot outside, the walls would get warm. They're foam insulation, right? You look at some other units, they might use like a residential batten insulation. These are foam insulation, 2-inch thick, and that probably contributes to why the walls get slightly warm on the inside, which of course an entire wall like this getting warm, being beaten by the sun, is definitely going to cause heat to build up inside of your unit. But because they have 3 AC units, and because they are all ducted in a very, very innovative way, it allowed us to stay cool inside. I'm not going to say when it's that hot outside it'll freeze you out in here, but it definitely stays comfortable. It definitely stays at a very acceptable temperature level. Now, they do a lot of things really, really well. I mean, really well. The cabinetry, the woodwork, everything that I've pointed out is top-notch. I mean, I would probably say it's a few steps above even some of your brands that you consider to be the higher premium brands like DRV and Luxe. However, there are some areas that you can definitely see where they are trying to save some cost if they feel they don't need to spend it there. So let's talk about some of those. Okay, so right now we're out here taking a look at the wheels, tires, and suspension. And this is one area that I'm typically very critical on RVs whenever I feel that they're not giving you what you should get for the price. Now, on this specific unit, this has an MSRP of like $144,000, $145,000. But in reality, you're probably going to pay closer to about $110,000 to $125,000 depending on how you get it equipped and with what options. For instance, if you opt to have an Onan generator up front. One of the options that you have back here in terms of safety is to add disc brakes. So disc brakes are definitely an option if you want them. I spec'd it with this, but when they delivered it to me, it had drum brakes on it. So they didn't hit the mark in terms of giving me the spec that I asked for, and actually something they had told me they would provide. This essentially was a unit that rolled off their line, and they decided to send me this one. So there were a few different things that weren't exactly the way I wanted it, but again, it's a 6-month review, so I can't be too critical on that. However, this unit has drum brakes. At this price, I feel disc brakes should have been standard. But that's really about it. It has good axles, 8,000-pound Dexter axles. It has 17.5-inch wheels and tires, and they're H-rated, but they are Westlake. I mean, they could have gone with like a Goodyear, G114 series tire and had a better brand tire with the same rating, but they went with a slightly less expensive brand, which a lot of brands use Westlake, right? You see a lot of Grand Design products, a lot of other manufacturers out there use the Westlake tire, but it is a little bit of a cheap tire at this price range of unit. They run the Road Armor from LCI. This is their Trail Air. It's a suspension equalizer, which I think is a good setup. This is actually one that I've done a review on, as well as the heavy-duty shackle straps and greasable wet bolts. So I'm a big fan of that, and I'm glad that they've done that on this specific unit. A lot of RVs skimp out in this area, but at this price point, I would expect an upgraded suspension, and this one has it, so that's really nice. Now, in terms of, can you get this with an independent suspension like a MORryde system? No, they don't currently offer it. When I talked to them about it, that was one area that they felt they didn't need to spend the extra money because this is a great setup, they're happy with it, and I can't really disagree with it because it is a good setup. If they had gone with a MORryde system, or if they had gone with something that was, purely independent based, it would have added significant cost to the unit, and it may not have been something a lot of people really cared about. They've upgraded the suspension in areas that I think it matters, so I'm happy with that. Also, while we're under here, looking up here, it has a 10-inch I-beam frame that's stacked on top of a 12-inch frame. 10 on 12 is my preference whenever you're talking about larger fifth wheels. In some cases, you'll see folks that do a 10 with the 6 or a 12 with the 6 or an 8-inch I-beam frame, and I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of the smaller I-beam, and I think this is one area they did a good job. Also, they're using rack and pinion slides or Schwintek slides where they count. Their heavier slides are rack and pinion, their lighter slides are Schwintek. So I'm happy with that setup as long as you understand how to operate the slides well. Landing gear or your hydraulic leveling system and your slides in the middle here are hydraulic, and your front and rear slides are electric Schwintek slides. Now, in terms of the exterior, this has full body paint, which I believe is standard on the Beacon. I could be wrong. I know it's not something you get on the Volano, but in terms of the Beacon, the paint job is fantastic. However, there's one area that I didn't really care for, and that was right here. Whenever I put this RV lock on, it actually showed the paint underneath because they installed the door handle before they painted the door. So they taped around it and then painted around it. So you can see some of the white underneath the paint here where I put the RV lock. Now I'm actually going to keep that on, so whoever buys this unit later will have that, but that's just something I wanted to point out. I feel they could have removed the handle, painted underneath it, and then put the handle back on. Also, they use the LCI solid step, which is a really nice flip-out step system, but they don't have the one with the assist on it. So whenever you're lifting this up or putting down, it can get kind of heavy. And for most people, it's not going to be a problem, but if you struggle with heavier weights, it could be. So, having the assist there can probably come in handy. But a reason they may not have put it there is because it takes up a portion of this area right here, and it can kind of create a bit of a pinch point or a trip hazard right here. But that might be the reason. It might not. I don't really know, but I know that they don't have it right here. One thing I really like is the fact that they include the surge guard on here, so they have an entire power management system. It actually enables you to run all three 15,000 BTU air conditioning systems off a 50 amp connection, which is really cool. Of course, it has its own generator, but the surge guard system is one of those things that manages power across the entire RV, and it can really help you run things in an effective, efficient manner without tripping breakers all the time. You still have to be very careful that you don't overload it, that you don't, try to run your vacuum cleaner, your microwave, and all three ACs, because you're likely going to have an issue there. But it's good to know they have a system in place that helps you at least run all three ACs off of your traditional 50 amp RV connection. Now, coming to this is an area, it's kind of a love and hate. I love the fact that I can see so much information on this specific screen. This is their Spider control system, very similar to what you would see in some of their Class A RVs, right? It's just super cool. A lot of features, a lot of functions, so you can control just about everything from all of your lighting to, turning on and off different things individually, to opening and closing your slides, to turning on your fans, air conditioning units, all of that stuff. It's all controlled through here. All of the panels over here, though, are battery controlled, and they're all super flush. So if I want to turn something on or off, I can do that from here. And it's really cool to control it, but at some point you'll have to replace the batteries here. That's probably my first minor gripe. The main gripe is if you're in a dark room, you don't know really what you're turning on or off unless you actually remember it. And of course you can hit the little blank, kind of feel your way to the bottom corner, and it will light up the keypad. But that's one area that was a little challenging. And my wife actually looked at it and was a little disappointed with the fact that she couldn't just naturally find a switch to turn on and off to control something. In some cases, we were in the bedroom over here, and she would try to turn just one light on out there, and she'd end up turning every light on inside of the entire RV by pressing master light on at night. So all of a sudden the room is lit up with light and everything turns on when all she wanted to turn on was like this hallway light so she could use the restroom or go into the bathroom. So this is one area. It's super cool tech. It's definitely from the Class A RV world, but it's definitely not something that I'm a huge fan of. I'm sure some people absolutely love this system. Me personally, not so much. I kind of like the regular switches. And again, you have some switches over there where you can turn everything off and you can turn things on, and if you hit the wrong button, sometimes it can be a bit of a pain. Now, I absolutely love how they've lowered the bed. Much easier to get on. I think that is brilliant, actually. I think it's a really, really great idea, great design. I like the soft touch padding up here on the top. I think they did a great job there as well. Coming back, there are a lot of really nice areas. Now, you may take a look at like the carpet in this slide and you might think, why did they put carpet in here? Well, the fact is, I really didn't care. I mean, this is one of those areas that if they had put vinyl or linoleum and blended it in, I probably couldn't have cared either way, but they put carpet here. Now, from a fit and finish perspective, in terms of like things creaking, noises when you go upstairs, I can honestly tell you that the fit and finish in this unit is really, really solid. We were really happy with it. We didn't have any weird noises, weird creaks. Nothing was super unexpected. Cabinets, everything worked really well. We did have a minor plumbing issue right here where one of the connections came off of the bottom of the drain right there. So whenever you would run it, the water would go through. And I looked underneath there. I saw that the fitting had come loose. I tightened it back up and we were good to go. But that is something that actually happened. So, I don't want to discount that and say that that didn't happen. And if you have a sink full of water and that thing came off, then the water would have drained out. I didn't notice until we had a puddle forming on the floor right here. And thankfully, it was caught really quick because when my wife was washing the dishes, our little daughter was running around here and she saw it. So I was able to get under there, get a little bucket under there until I could put the fitting back in place and tighten it. But aside from that, that's really it. This has been a great unit. We probably used it, I'm going to say, just about as much as we had planned. Again, we're not full-timers. We don't live in it. We do take it out probably more than the average weekend warrior, and we tried to take it out more than maybe some people might, but over the last 6 months, again, we've probably taken it on 7 trips, I think 8 trips. I can't remember. I got to go back and think because we went on a couple close by trips. We went out to Kingsville. We did San Antonio, Victoria a couple times. To be honest with you, we don't own this unit. And though we have insurance, the last thing I want to do is to find myself in a really bad situation where we get into an accident or something when we're on the road. So that was always something that was on my mind, and I wanted to be very careful because, again, this is a unit that was lent to us. Overall, though, we've been very pleased with it. Do I think it's worth the price? $144,000, if you were going to try to pay MSRP, probably not. If you were going to pay closer to what you're likely to pay at a dealership for this, I think it definitely stacks up incredibly well against the brands that it's designed to compete against. And in many cases, it's superior. So the interior to me is nicer than that of a Riverstone. Even though Riverstone makes some absolutely beautiful RVs, I like the chassis on Riverstones, but I like the chassis when you've upgraded it. So you've gotten, independent suspension, you've upgraded wheels, tires, all that stuff on the Riverstone makes it slightly nicer. But when you've done that, it ends up costing more as well, significantly more. When you compare this to like a Redwood, in terms of interior, Redwood does really good with their interiors, but I would still say that this is a step above a Redwood. In terms of DRV, DRV's big claim to fame is their construction in terms of chassis, sidewalls, roof options. You can get a one-piece fiberglass roof on one of those. There are a lot of really cool features that you can get in a DRV that just aren't available in a lot of other units, including that triple box 15-inch frame, the independent suspension, all of that stuff. In terms of the interior, in most cases, I find the interior to be a little dated feeling. However, I honestly would tell you that the Beacon is a step above in terms of interior, in my opinion. When it comes to frame, chassis, sidewall thickness, stuff like that, I would say the DRV has some significant advantages, but it's also significantly more expensive. So that's something you want to keep in mind. But overall opinion of this unit, if I were full-timing, I could absolutely full-time live in one of these. It felt so comfortable, and that's one thing my wife loved, was the interior, the living room. She felt like you were in a luxury condo, and that's how I felt. That's how anybody who stepped into this felt, like you are really, really stepping up to an RV that you could live in, and this feels that way. Is it as well-rounded as some of the other full-time rated units? For the most part it is, but if you get a Lux, if you get a New Horizon, if you get a DRV, you can get those customized, not so much a DRV, but you can get Lux and New Horizon customized in a way that you really can't get one of these customized to specifically suit your living style. You can pick your furniture, you can pick your lighting, you can pick all sorts of different things. And the Vanleigh Beacon is more of a super nice fifth wheel that you can go to almost any dealer and buy off the lot, as opposed to one that you're going to be working with a dedicated sales rep to customize exactly the way you want it. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind, and it's one thing you have to understand, that you're paying less for a unit like this because they can keep the same template in all of these floor plans, aside from a few minor color changes or a few options, and sell this on any of their dealer lots. So that's something to think about. Overall, I've been very happy with it. The family's been very happy with it. It's been very easy to tow. We haven't had any towing experiences, nothing negative. It's been relatively easy to maneuver. It's an incredibly long fifth wheel, approaching 45 feet long, so it's a bit challenging in some areas to negotiate it, especially if you're showing up at night. And it's really tall because it has a straight profile roof going all the way back. They do so many things right, and again, at this price point, I do think it's a good value, and it's definitely one you should consider if you're looking at getting a full-time, livable fifth wheel from a manufacturer who does a good job backing it up after the sale, and you want all of the luxury features that you have in your home in an RV. So that's pretty much my opinion of it, and I hope you've enjoyed this journey. Do you want me to do other long-term evaluations of RVs? If so, what type of RV? Do you want another large fifth wheel like this, or would you think something smaller might be better, like a Black Series, or maybe some of the smaller Coachmans, or Jayco products that are bumper pullable? Let me know. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in terms of next steps, what type of RV you'd like to see on this channel, and if you'd like me to work with other manufacturers to do long-term evaluations. And then finally, here's kind of that question that I have to ask, and please leave it in the comments. Do you feel that I was fair in terms of the review that I did over the entire video series on this Vanleigh Beacon? Do you feel that I gave it a good, fair, unbiased review? Do you feel I was way too positive about the product and I didn't try to point out more things? I mean, I want your opinion. What do you feel in terms of how I reviewed their product? Because that matters. It definitely matters to me. I hope you felt I was unbiased and fair about it, and I hope you felt I was just as positive as I was negative where those, two thoughts mattered. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. I sure hope you enjoyed the entire series on this Beacon. I'd love to know your feedback. Leave a comment below. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.